Our episode for today is sponsored by Organic Living. I had the opportunity to try out organic moisture absorbers a few months ago, and I am completely hooked on them. I've put them in every area of my house and my car where there's even a hint of moisture. My favorite part, they're all natural, so I don't have to worry about the kids or the dog getting into them. They're perfect for under sinks, in closets, holiday storage bins, dressers, and pantries. And since they're made of non-toxic minerals, you can use them virtually anywhere. With 100% satisfaction guarantee, you have no reason not to try them out. You can visit organicliving.com to learn more and place an order. And as always, we'll put a link in our show notes. Welcome to episode 20 of Jacksonville Momcast. Today, our guests are Julia and Jess from Casa Design Consulting. Julia and Jess combine their organization skills with training in the Montessori method to help parents create a home that is calm, organized, and functional for parents and kids. In today's episode, they chat with us about Casa Design and the services they offer, and they give us some tips to help parents curb kid clutter. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the Jacksonville Momcast, a podcast dedicated to real stories for real parents. Each episode, we'll chat with local Jacksonville moms and cover topics to help you navigate mom life on the First Coast. Thanks for joining us as we tackle all things motherhood and more with a focus on the 904. So welcome. Today we have Julia and Jess with Casa Design Consulting here in Jacksonville. So why don't we start by you guys telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us on, Shannon. So I am Julia Allen, and I was originally born in Atlanta and went to Auburn University, War Eagle, for education. And that's where I met my husband. Once I graduated from Auburn, the Navy for my husband took us to Hawaii and then back here to Jacksonville. We have two little girls and ages almost 7 and almost 5. Their birthdays are coming up next month. So after Hawaii, we came back here to Jacksonville and both of our girls were born here. I fell in love with the Montessori method after our first daughter was born. I just thought it was so much more natural and organic and more of a gentle approach to parenting and to education. So I joined the Discovery School a few years ago, and that is where I had my Montessori training done. But since then I have left the Discovery School to focus on Casa more full time and to spend more time with my family. We are avid travelers. My husband is a pilot, and we spend a lot of time trying to fit in travel to our already busy schedules.
That's awesome. And Jess, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is actually where I met Aubrey, one of the founders of our company. I grew up swimming with her and then reconnected with her in college, which is also where I met Christine, who's the other founder of our company. The three of us did my undergraduate training together. Aubrey was in her master's program at the time, and we did our internship together all at the same time and learned the levels of 6 to 9-year-olds, so first, second, and third grade in Montessori training. I went to Xavier University, and at the time it was a total reprieve for me. I started out as a econ major in the business school. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I realized that I needed something a little more gentle. My mom always jokes about a time that I called her sobbing because I was so happy. She said she grabbed her purse and she was ready to run out the door, like, what's wrong? What's going on? And I was like, Mom, this method is amazing. I just fell in love with Montessori at the time, and it was the perfect thing for me. I also got lucky that Montessori moved me to Jacksonville. I took my first job over in San Marco, and then after that, I moved out to the beach. I've been a teacher in classrooms for 10 years before stepping out. And I met my husband, Chaz, here. We got married this year. And now we live at the beach with our dog, Mac, and eventually plan on growing our family.
That's great. I love that story that you called your mom. I think every mom can relate to that, like initial, like fight or flight, and then to be so relieved that it's a good call with good crying.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Casa Design Consulting and what you guys do.
Awesome. Yeah. So as we mentioned, we are both former Montessori teachers, and we are just striving to try and bring calm to the chaos in the home, especially when it comes to toys and questions that parents also may have about their child's development or maybe what they should be focusing on next. So that is typically when we do a project, we work with families through a quick virtual consultation to give them a quote about our services and also to look at their space. And then we come in and try and create a more seamless Montessori inspired environment in the home using their own toys and their own materials.
And a lot of this home organization is centered around the Montessori model. Have you always been organized? Are you both like super organized people, or did this kind of like evolve? It sounds like the Montessori came first, but were you also organized and then, kind of melded the two, or has this been a learning process for you also?
So I definitely have always been organized. I'm the person who came in with the color-coded binders in college, and after class he would ask me if they could copy my notes, and Christine always joked about how I was the one who looked prepared and had everything together. And it's funny, I think now that I'm newly married though, and we just combined our houses, I don't think I'm as organized as I would like to be, but we're working on it slowly but surely. It's growing.
This is why Jess and I are such a good, yin and yang, a good match for each other, because my family literally laughs at me when I'm a professional organizer now. They just can't believe that that's the career path I've chosen. My room when growing up was that I thought the floor just should hold everything kind of person. And it wasn't until I had a roommate in college who she started teaching me tips and tricks along the way each day to just kind of maintain tidiness and organization throughout our rooms in our apartment at the time. But now I will say it definitely has helped my mental state and anxiety levels, that I like things to be put away and it doesn't always have to be perfect, but that everything has a place and that it should return there eventually by the end of the day.
So that's so interesting, because I think there's definitely some people are born with that organization and some people are taught the organization. I see that with my own children, that one of them is just more inherently organized and the other one needs more prompting to kind of get there. So I think that's an interesting combination that you guys have.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned skill for me, but it was, like I said, it's about finding that balance and finding what works for you.
But how great that you bring that to your customers, because not everybody is inherently organized, obviously, and not everybody needs as much instruction in how to get there. So that's nice that you offer both perspectives when you go in for a consultation. And so with that, let's talk a little bit about how a consultation with Casa Design works.
Yes. So our free 15-minute consultations are set up virtually. And during these sessions, they're always different, but we like to answer any questions that potential clients have. And one of the biggest things is that we do a video consult, so we can see the space that the clients are feeling like maybe needs some love, and we can see what furniture is in there. We can discuss what's working, what's not working, and we can at the time give an estimate of how much time we think it will take to complete the project, and then that way clients can budget for our services.
Perfect. And like you said, that's a free consultation, correct?
Yes.
And so with Casa Design, you use a lot of Montessori inspired principles. What are some of those principles that you use, and why are they important when it comes to that home organization element?
So the biggest one I think we focus on is that the less is more concept. There are definitely there's scientifically proven benefits to having less choices, especially for children. Children can become overwhelmed when they see too many toys out, or one of the things we work on with clients especially is the bins and the baskets. And when you have all these toys thrown into one area, a child can't find what they're looking for. And so typically they'll dump everything out on the floor and pick up the one toy that they wanted and walk away, because then it can lead to, stress and frustration when they see all this stuff sitting on the floor and they don't know where it goes, can't figure out how to put it away. So that's what we a lot of times work with clients, is the less is more. And so we work on organizing everything for them and storing everything, but that way they can have fewer options out on the shelf.
For sure. For those interested in some more of the science, do a quick Google search on the JAM study.
We'll put a link to that also in the show notes, the JAM study. So if people want to read more about that, they can. Mm-hmm. So what is the big difference between trying to do a reorganization yourself and hiring help like Casa Design?
So the biggest difference is just that we are child focused, that we want to help parents bridge the gap between home and school. And with our years of training and teaching experience, we can help answer a lot of questions about child development and provide resources that make the space sustainable for all members of the family.
And I love that you guys were both teachers, because I think that training and education and that experience really lends well to, like you said, transfer. How many times would you love your child's teacher to come into your home and kind of work with you? And now you almost have that option with you guys.
Certainly.
That's actually something we would hear quite a bit at parent-teacher conferences. Mm-hmm. And people would ask us questions all the time. Well, how can we implement this in our home? How can we make it look either like the classroom or just some of those principles? How can we put that into action at our own house? And so that's kind of where the idea from Casa was born out of.
Absolutely. And just to think about child behavior, and you have a child who maybe is better at independent play at school and then gets home and is frustrated, like you said, like implementing some of those principles really can help with that school to home transition. So what is the biggest complaint or frustration you hear from your clients when it comes to organizing?
So I don't even know if it's a complaint really, but I think the thing that people talk about the most is that they won't be able to keep it up when we leave. So we offer opportunities for questions, and we show the family how to complete a toy rotation on their own after we leave. And that really is a simple concept. It's just taking away toys that the child is not using anymore, or they talk about they're bored, or they're being destructive with their toys. We teach them how to put those away into storage and take out something that they're going to use and make a refresher in their playroom. And if they ever really need us again too, we offer toy rotation services.
That's what I was going to ask that. So is that where you've worked with a family in the past and then you come in just for a shorter session to do a rotation?
We do. And so we offer those individually. And then we also offer packages for those as well, a seasonal package, and which is the seasonal one is 4 times a year. And then we offer a larger package for 6 times a year.
Excellent. And so what seems to be the most difficult for people to keep organized? Like, what do you think when you go into people's homes? And I see you both laughing, and I have an idea of the answer to this question. So I'm curious to hear what you say as professionals.
I mean, I would say that 90% of our clients in particular say that it's toys, playrooms, Christmas gifts, birthday presents that come in and there's no space for them. So, when we're in a specific room, things like books or art, those always fall into that category too. But our biggest service that people lean towards is called the toy edit, just like the home edit. But we see this so often because of how many small pieces in art there are, and families that aren't sure what to keep out for their children and what to put away.
And so let's talk about toys, whether you have little kids. I always say little kids with big toys or big kids with little toys. The holiday season is here and the kids will be bringing more and more stuff into the house. what are some tips you have for parents that they can start doing now to prepare for that holiday influx?
So we love this question. We get this question quite a bit, and this is a perfect time to start teaching your child about donating, practicing empathy, even working on some decision-making skills. So we highly suggest that people go through their toys and see what truly is not developmentally appropriate anymore. What have you outgrown this past year? And then talk with your kids about donating them. Talk about what they can share with others and what they are finished playing with. So it becomes a group conversation, and it begins to teach your child about caring for others.
And there's a lot of great places in Jacksonville where you can donate used toys. We always used to give to our preschool that we had left, anything, puzzles and books and stuff like that. Do you have any favorite places to donate?
The ones we always recommend to our clients are either the Hubbard House, which for anyone that doesn't know, it's a women's shelter, but children are there as well. So you can donate to them, and then also to Hope's Closet, because their profits go towards their mission work.
Excellent. And we'll put links to both of those in the show notes as well, so that if anybody wants to donate, they can find where they're located. So you touched on toy rotation. Talk to us a little bit more about what exactly a toy rotation is and why we should be doing it.
So the best way I can try and describe it is when you're at a play date and your child doesn't want to leave because they are just so enamored with the new toys that it becomes difficult for them to part with them. It's the same idea with the toy rotation. By storing your own toys and rotating them when you see that your child needs new stimulation, it makes their toys new again. They'll find new creative ways to use them and learn valuable lessons.
And it's funny that you said that about the play date. I think back, my son is 15, but when he was much, much younger, we would always go to Barnes and Noble and play with the train table. And they always had like exactly 2 trains that were left there because they didn't have a ton, because, it was a public train table. And he would play for like hours with those 2 trains. And then we'd come home and he'd have his own train table with 30 trains. And he was totally not interested.
It's so true. I mean, it happens all the time. And every time when I do a toy rotation in my own home, I wish I captured on camera the other day, my youngest ran into the playroom and saw that things were switched out. She goes, "Mom, where did you find all of these new toys?" And she even used the term new toys. And I was like, "Honey, those were in the closet. I've been switching them out." But that's how excited and refreshed they feel.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme the other day that said, my son came home all excited from preschool that they got new trucks to play with, and then they're our trucks. We donated them, so they were his trucks, and they donated them to the school. And he's very excited, and he hadn't touched them in a year. So absolutely, just keeping everything fresh is so important. And does toy rotation apply just to little kids, or can we continue to use this as kids get older?
Oh, absolutely. So Julia and I are combined trained in age levels 0 through 12. So, my training goes up until the upper elementary age levels, and then beyond, of course. Just putting a toy rotation into any type of environment helps, even with adults. I mean, just like a change of scenery obviously changes things, so just like adults go through the phases of what we like and don't like, so do children, and so do older children.
And do you find with older children, it helps to get them involved in the process? Like once they can kind of understand you're not throwing their toys in the garbage, you're just like setting them aside. Like, do you ever work with older kids like that?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, eventually they can even be doing their own spaces, creating that autonomy where they're the ones putting things away when they're finished with it, and cycling things out too helps them to feel a sense of ownership over the space.
Mm-hmm. I will say my 7-year-old has begun to tell me like what she's working on. And then she'll be like, "Mom, can you help create something that I can work on?" Maybe for right now, she's really into multiplication and she was trying to figure that out. And so she's like, "Can you make me a work that I can practice?" And so just even having those language skills and having those conversations can help to guide you as the caregiver and as the parent to what they're looking for next.
And what a great skill to equip your children with as they get older. And when you think about them going off to college and maybe being in like a dorm room or a small apartment, you can't take all your stuff. And so how wonderful for them to be able to go prepared to be able to pare down what they actually need and know that they can rotate through when they come home to visit in that type of environment.
Yes, for sure.
So as we mentioned, the holidays are coming. And I mean, I know in our family, the grandparents are guilty of over shopping for the grandchildren. So how can we encourage our family and friends to not buy as much stuff?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. So we always give the suggestion of just asking for experiences as well when you're creating your gift list. I mean, Jacksonville is an incredible place. You can ask for zoo memberships or tickets to a show, like season tickets to the FSCJ Artist Series, and go see several concerts over the following year, or just even planning out a day trip somewhere. I had a parent give their children the ability to plan a day trip. So it was, here's your budget, you plan it out, this is what we get to do. So not only was it a gift, but it was also a learning experience.
That's so fun. And you're right. Jacksonville has a ton for all ages, little kids all the way up through teenagers. Once you're done reorganizing a room or a closet or a playroom, what are some tips you have to help keep it nice and organized?
The biggest thing that I like to tell people is just to make it fun for yourself. To try not see this as a chore, make it part of your routine, but also don't overwhelm yourself with it. Just like the home never stays stagnant. You know, it is a living, breathing thing, just like the people who are inside the home. And so to care for your playroom, or if you're focusing on, an art area or a homework area, to care for it just like you would, everyone living in the house, but also to give yourself some grace and not to stress out about it. I think focusing on it, for me in particular, I focus on our playroom about once a month and do a good big toy rotation. And typically it takes me about an hour, but so just mentally in my mind, that's what works for me. So I always tell clients just to find what will fit into their routine. If it's 5 minutes at the end of every day, or if it's a chunk of time once a month, just to make it work for yourself.
That's a really good tip, because for some people, carving out an hour a week or a month is too much. But for some people, 5 minutes at the end of the day is, completely attainable.
And I think something else too that we talk about when we're actually in this space is when a child is not working with something, or they're ignoring a particular toy, try and start thinking of what comes next. Keep maybe like a pen and paper and jot down a note of saying, okay, that's the toy that I need to move. And maybe write down a little note of what you're going to replace it with. So when you actually go to do your toy rotation, you already know which bin you're going to, or where that toy needs to go, and what you're replacing it with. It'll make it much smoother and make it go faster.
That's a really good suggestion. So talk us through the different services that Casa offers.
So we offer a pretty wide range and focus on a lot of things. Like I said, our biggest service would be our toy edit, where we come in and organize and set up a space in a playroom typically. And then that follows with our service called the toy rotation. So we also come back and, like we touched on earlier, at different increments, and can help rotate out those toys depending on your feedback from how your children are utilizing the space. Then we have School by Casa and Move by Casa. So those are exactly like they sound, setting up a homework space. We did this service a lot when with the transition home over the last year, setting up desk spaces for children who were working virtually, and then also Move by Casa. So that one is same thing. When families are moving from one house to another, we'll help pack up in an organized way, packing things into boxes on the front side and then unpacking on the back side and setting up in the new space. Additionally, we also do virtual consultations. So we've done a couple virtual consultations with people who want to do this themselves, but aren't prepared to pay for our travel fee. So we'll just walk you through and stay on Zoom, go over things, and help you create a shopping list for yourself to do the work yourself.
And the School by Casa is fascinating to me as someone who had to set up home workstations for my children a year and a half ago. How did COVID impact you guys? Like how has it kind of, I mean, obviously you're doing a lot of virtual, because I think that's kind of the norm these days. Like everybody's pretty much comfortable with it, but how has the pandemic really impacted your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're lucky. We were doing virtual consultations before COVID, just as a way to cut down on minimizing, having people meet with you and the commute and all of those things. But then, with people being home more and realizing how important having their homes organized was to them, it really has increased our business. We've been very lucky.
Mm-hmm. I think it was one of those things too, where the more time that people were spending in the home together, I'm sure people have talked about it. The booming construction business right now, people are tired of staring at what they wanted to change in their house. And I think the same goes for children's spaces. They were like, that is the task that I've been putting off. And so like Jess said, it did increase our business because people were just wanting to get it taken care of.
And I know, I mean, that's true at my house. Like we tackled so many projects in the last year and a half. We actually have our last home improvement project scheduled for next week. And then my son was like, are we now done for like a little bit? I'm like, yes, we're done for a little bit. But you're right. Spending more time at home makes you realize what you want to change about your house and how you want to improve it. And I think having the kids home for that length of time, you're all of a sudden like, holy cow, like we have to, figure some stuff out with this playroom or this space where we can make it more functional.
Well, I think people too were bringing in so many items, trying to almost make up for what they were missing at school. And so it was all well-intentioned, but it just became overwhelming. So that's where we stepped in.
And we're so lucky to have you to be able to step in. Tell us what your favorite thing about either being a mom in Jacksonville or living in Jacksonville is.
So my favorite thing about being a mom in Jacksonville is that it's big enough to have concerts and shows, stop in town, museums and, fairs and festivals, things like that. But it's still small enough where we get to see people that we know all the time. Anytime we're out at a restaurant, at the grocery store, we bump into people all the time. And I love that atmosphere for my kids. And then also the beach. I've always wanted to grow up and live near the water. Growing up in Atlanta, it was always exciting to go to the beach every summer. But now I love that my kids get to grow up here and be close to the water.
Certainly. That's same thing for me. I mean, growing up in Ohio, even just living off of Beach and Hodges years ago, that was the beach to me, which, my husband, of course, now would say, absolutely not. Like, if you're not on the island, you're not at the beach. But for sure, absolutely. Jacksonville and the art scene, it's a great city to live in and raise a family.
It really is. So anything else you guys want to add before we close it out for today?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. We're just really proud to be members of this community and super thankful to be part of this.
And we feel just very, very supported too with how quickly Casa Designs is growing and just, the Jax community has been awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Julia and Jess. And we will put links to Casa Design Consulting website and Instagram in the show notes, as well as some of the other things we talked about today. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Jacksonville Momcast. For more information about what you've just heard, check out our show notes and find us on Instagram at Jacksonville Momcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and know someone who should tune in, please subscribe and share it. We look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Jacksonville Momcast.